So welcome back to another episode of Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell. And I'm thrilled to continue the trilogy we have on the power of sound. And today we've got Ann-Marie Boudreau back here again. Hello, Ann-Marie.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for having me back again.
Ann-Marie, if you didn't catch that first episode that we did of this trilogy, is a sound doula, concert pianist, multi-instrumentalist. That's an understatement since you can see everything behind her for those that are watching the video. She's an improvisational vocalist and a Reiki master. And our last episode, we explored how sound shapes our health and how it resonates through our bodies. And today we're going to dive deeper into the healing voice and the transformational power it can hold for everyone. What tea do you have in your mug today?
Me.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking me. I actually have one of my favorites. It's a lemon ginger herbal tea and with a little bit of honey in it. And I have to say, as a singer and a vocalist, it's one of my favorite types of tea when I'm singing or talking for long periods of time. So, cheers.
Perfect. Cheers. And I'll have a sip of mine and then introduce it. Oh, and just, I was just thinking about when people describe for me, as I just finished working all of the holiday markets, and when people describe their favorite tea, right? The face lights up, you just like, it's like coming home to someone. So as you were describing that, you could feel the comfort that that tea provides, which is perfect for our conversation today. And so as I usually do, I introduce a tea so that we can bring a healing session into the podcast. And so as you're listening today, perhaps you have some tea beside you or some water that you can infuse with the energy that we're going to describe here. And that's just thinking about the water. You can hold it in your hands and just bring the intention in. And I'm going to bring a little bit about the autograph in. And this one comes from Natalie MacMaster Set. I did 3 different teas that she could take out on tour with her, but the autograph is one of my favorite herbal blends. This one contains, and I pulled 2 ingredients out, and I tried to pull something that wasn't what most people would think about. So I pulled pumpkin and lemon today. And you've got the lemon with your ginger. So this one, we're going to just bring it forward in the symbolic and spiritual resonance that is about who is the healer, which is our topic today, and understanding the inner signature that we can bring to our own healing path. If I look at pumpkin, we've got the essence of inner nourishment and abundance. Pumpkin carries that energy for being rooted and grounded. We all know that from where it grows on the ground, but also where we often observe it and participate with pumpkin. And then the harvesting and the wholeness. And spiritually, pumpkin teaches us about trust in our inner richness, nourishing our soul with gentle compassion, recognizing the gifts that we already are carrying, and then sharing our abundance without depleting it. And pumpkin reminds us that healing can transform us by returning us home to ourselves, which is kind of how we were describing ourselves with our tea, and acknowledging that we're already full of wisdom, we have resilience, and we have a full potential. And it's that perfect companion for reflecting on our unique autograph, the imprint that we bring to the world simply by being who we are and what we bring. Now, if we partner that with lemon, we have clarity, illumination, and fresh perspective. Lemon offers the energy of brightness, cleansing, and renewal. And as Ann-Marie is having a sip, for those people who are listening, you wouldn't be able to see that. But every time there's an idea that you would like to bring more into you, take a sip of your tea or your water, because that's going to bring the energy in as we go through these topics. Lemon is about clearing emotional clutter. None of us have any clutter that we'd like to get rid of. I'll say that very sarcastically. We all have things that we would like to just, push away to the side, and this is a great addition to be able to do that. It dissolves heaviness for us, brightens our sense of purpose, and lifts the mind into a more inspired and creative state. It can provide us with a spark of insight, helping us to see ourselves as healers with fresh clarity, and illuminates the path and encourages us to offer our light with courage and authenticity. Now, if we put the grounding of pumpkin together with the awakening of lemon, we have a synergy for discovering our inner healer and expressing our unique signature in the world. And I'd love to be able to bring this forward, Ann-Marie, because our topic is about the healer within. And I'm just so excited for people to realize what their voice contains, where we can go with it.
Me too.
So let's bring a little tea ritual in for people if you haven't been doing this before. So first of all, you want to notice the aroma and let that, in my case, pumpkin, wrap around me like a soft blanket.
And for
Feel
me,
the bright,
lemon.
uplifting notes of the lemon dancing lightly at the edges. We both have that. And then listen inward. Before that first sip, close your eyes and make a soft humming sound. Any note that can feel natural to you. And then allow that vibration to move through your chest and your throat. And then awakening the authentic voice that Ann-Marie is going to encourage further. And then take your mindful sip. So as you feel the grounding and the comfort, in my case with pumpkin, your case with ginger, and lemon's gentle spark, you can sense the qualities that are landing within the body, what shifts internally as the flavors move through us. And the intention on this tea is each of us has unique gifts for others to treasure. Create your special signature for others to be inspired. And I so love thinking about what do I have as a gift, because a lot of people think I don't have much to offer. We all have a lot to offer. And when we just share, that's our opportunity to help others shine. And that's what I love about opening with this tea and bringing that affirmation forward. So now that we're beyond the tea, everybody's engaged for a healing session. Let's get into understanding the healing voice and your expertise, Ann-Marie. So do you want to walk us through the healing power of the voice? Share a little bit about what that means.
Okay, the healing power of the voice. It sounds very simple, but it's actually pretty amazing. Our voice, when we think of it, is not just what's going on in our throat. It's actually a whole body, holistic experience. It's our energy from our toes to the top of our head. All of that is engaged when we actually start to work with our voice. So when we're working with our voice, we're engaging our whole body, we're becoming holistically involved, and therefore it's affecting the cells from the top of our heads to our toes, right through the whole body. And it's by allowing ourselves to play and to engage with our own natural resonance and sounding from the inside out that engages the healing aspect of it. So our voice is truly our own unique healing tool. And everyone has their own. It's as unique as our fingerprints are. Each of our voices are very, very unique that way.
I love when you think it's a spark. So I know I said spark a little bit earlier with the lemon, but I love how we have forgotten our gifts inside. And it's just like, well, I need to bring in more tools. I need to have more ways to be able to help myself be well, instead of thinking what is already on the inside, what is so resilient that I can just access it anytime I want. And we forget the voice is right there. Yeah.
We do. And there have been some very powerful examples that I've researched and found out about over the years. One of them is from Fabien Mamat, who is the founding father of vibrational sound therapy. He was a French musician, an acupuncturist, and a bioenergeticist. And he actually focused on studying cells, healthy cells and cancer cells under the microscope and experienced a huge amount of different instruments and tested them on the cells to see what would happen to the cellular walls and the consistency of the cell. And he found out that healthy cells would remain vibrant and radiant. He found out that the cells that had cancer would start to disintegrate and explode because they were not holding a healthy form. So therefore there was a real difference between those kinds of cells. So he took it another step forward, and that is there were clinical trials conducted for some breast cancer patients, and he had asked them to tone for so many hours a day using their own voice, and over for a period of about 3 months. And when they came back and were re-examined, one of the women's tumors had actually disappeared. The second one, it had dried up before the surgical removal. So there were advancements that happened. And these are women who were using their own voices and toning in the body, and so therefore affecting their body on a cellular level from the inside out. Another interesting example that happened to myself actually is I had started studying vocal work later in life, in my late 30s, early 40s. And it wasn't until my mid-50s, I think, I had gone into my naturopathic doctor, and she was doing a live blood test. And so she took a sample of the blood, put it under the microscope, and was looking at the sample. Then she looked back at me, and she looked at the sample, and she looked back at me, and she goes, "How old are you again?" I said, "Well, in my mid-50s. She said, "Really?" She said, "Because your blood is acting like it's in its early 40s. It's just bouncing all over the place." She said, "I can't explain what's going on with your blood." But she said, "You're a singer, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And so she said, "That's it. That's what has kept your blood and your circulation vibrant and bouncing." So that was my own naturopathic doctor who was telling me that after the years of singing that I had been doing. And there is still more studying going on now around the effects of music on human blood, the difference of sound emitted by healthy cells and cancer cells. There is a professor down at Rutgers University in New Jersey who's continuing on some of this work as well. So the advancement in the science and the study is still continuing, and we'll see what continues to happen for people. But it's something that we can test out on our own with our own voice over periods of time to see how it reacts with its own natural vibrancy in our lives.
And I think all of us can identify with standing in the shower if no one else is home and being able to belt out a song or break out in song, or the same in the car, cranking up the tunes, and then off you go and you're singing at the top of your lungs and you're like, yes. And that elation that comes from it, we already know that. Then it's just a matter of applying it at the most important times in our lives, or the most important part of the day.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Sadly, though, a lot of people have gotten messages that have shut them down. So such as, I don't want you to sing, stand in the back of the choir, just mouth the words, you don't have a good voice, kids should be seen, not heard. Everyone has had a message come in at some point in their lives. And when that sort of shutdown message comes in, that really can close down and affect our voice, how we communicate, and how freely we bring our sound into the world as well. So it's really important to be aware of whether there are any sort of messages that have come to you that have shut you down, through time. And they may still be drifting around inside of you and keeping you from really working and playing with your voice more freely. So it's a good thing to think about.
Mm-hmm. Especially, I think too, when somebody says, "I don't want to speak in front of public," right? And I'm going to be nervous doing that. One of the things that I kept actually in my office was a sign that said it's very selfish to be nervous. And when I held on to that, because you could get up to go to speak and it's your voice quakes. For me, I would always lose my emotions and start to cry because I'd be emotional about something. So it made it hard to say something. But then when I considered it was selfish to be nervous, then it was like, okay, then I have to be fully present and I have to be there and with full integrity. And then out of your mouth comes this solid voice that sounds like it knows what it's doing and everybody believes, you know. But we all have that example, and then what goes on in our head that holds us back or cuts that voice down or doesn't even provide us with enough air to be able to support what the voice requires. Now,
Yeah.
so can you tell us a little bit about how the voice communicates with the body, with the mind, and then the biofield, the outside of the body? Can you share a little bit about that?
A lot of it is when we're actually using the voice, when we're engaging, when we're using our energy, that is pumping the organ systems, that's pumping the blood circulation through the body, and there's almost a kind of magnetism with the repetitiveness of the sound and the singing that goes on, and that can show up in our aura and the colors that surround the body as well. So when we're actually singing and sounding, we can be projecting an amazing amount of energy that comes out of us at that time. It makes me think of some time I spent in Peru working with shaman. There was a particular period where we were working near Lake Titicaca, and we had been doing a lot of very deep meditation through the day. And that evening, we actually prepared and did fire walks, these huge, long fire walks. I'm amazed to say that I did it.
I'm jealous.
Connecting with the element of fire was quite something, and it brought me up to a real high, and I was almost brimming over with all of this energy, and I didn't know what to do with it. So afterwards I asked the shaman if I could borrow his buffalo drum. He had it to the side, and I went into this huge room inside the place that we were staying, and I just proceeded to bang the drum and sound and sound and sound. All this extra sound and this energy that was coming up. It was very joyous. It was very energetic. It was very big sound. It moved through waves up and down. And I remember looking to him and as he walked into the room, and I was going to hand the drumming back to him, but he said, no, stay and play it. So I did. I continued to sit and play until the energy moved through me. And once it did, it was like, okay, I'm good. I can go to bed now. I handed the drum back to him, and I went to bed. So the next day, he caught up to me, and he sat down beside me, and he said, very seriously and quietly, he goes, have you ever done any recording with your voice? And I said, no. I'm just starting to explore and to learn more about my voice now. I'm coming into it in my midlife. And he goes, you should start to think about that recording. She said, there's something very important and powerful that's coming through in your voice, and it's something that should be shared. So I was a little bit surprised. I thought, okay, and let's see what I can do. And so that summer I actually came back to Toronto and recorded with a friend of mine, Gary Diggins, and the two of us went through basically an improvisation session. He would improv on an instrument and I would improv with my voice. We would see what happened, record it in the meantime, and then the track was done. 8 hours later, I had my first CD. And when I explained to people, well, what is it? I said, well, it's more than just a listening CD. It's something to sing along with. I was exploring my voice as though I was singing music from different parts of the world, because I've been training my ear to listen to a lot of music from around the world. So I was exploring, I was playing, I was having fun. And so I encourage anyone who actually listens to that first CD to do the same thing, to explore, to play, to have fun with their voice, to see what comes out. And it doesn't have to sound pretty. It can sound however it wants to sound. And it can be your unique footprint and fingerprint on the sound as well. It doesn't have to sound like anyone else.
Wow. So, two things. So, one is, how can they find that first recording?
It's on my YouTube site.
Okay.
The name of the CD is Dreams of Ancient Lands.
Dreams of Ancient Lands. And what's your YouTube channel called?
I have to double check that.
That's okay.
Give me a moment. I don't look at it very often. I know there's a bunch of numbers that come after the title of it.
I just wanted to make sure as
it's
people were
Ann-Marie,
going, what is that?
Ann-Marie Boudreau 8570.
8570. Perfect.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. And I know we'll have the link in the description, but as people were listening, I didn't want them to lose track, to be able to say, oh, let me write that down if I want to and pull it. But what you've just described is a healing session that people can do for themselves, which is where we really wanted to take our conversation today. Is we so often think that someone else has the power to heal us, and we go in search of those people, and sometimes we bottom out because no one has an answer for us, and they can't find it on an x-ray, and they can't find it in a blood test. They might be able to find it on a live blood analysis test, but can't find it on the blood test. And so we think that we're a mystery, instead of thinking about how lovely it is that there's nothing physically showing up, which means that we have the power within to be able to shift that. And it can be within the emotional, spiritual realm of our life, which is where we live, and to be able to do that. So the next part we want to talk about, who is the healer. So can you share a little bit about the power we have as the person doing the healing ourselves?
We are the healers, of course, as you've already spoken of and we've guessed. It is through our own voice, it is through our own intention as well that we set, that we start to change the frequency and the resonance going on inside of ourselves. So when we actually decide to set an intention, to set something positively for ourselves. Yes, I want to heal. Yes, I want to help myself through this. When we set that mentally, we actually are starting to empower and to starting to empower that healing voice tool that we all have within ourselves. So there's yogis from India that happen to say that even if it's silent, it can be intentional and can still bring vibration throughout the whole of the body. So a mantra doesn't need to be sounded out loud to derive benefit from it. But tentatively, if we only speak the words but we don't say it mentally, then it actually has less power. So revving up the intent, putting that in our mind as well as speaking it, it's both of those aspects together that join and have even more power. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that we were chatting last night in another meeting about believing and knowing that we have that power. Do we wish to heal? And if we heal, where will we be? And what wonderful things are on that side of the journey. So that's often the impetus for then being able to bring the voice out and say, yes, I'm ready to make changes and bring that healing forward. Yeah.
And just a really interesting other piece of study done by Dr. Hans Jenny. when he was actually using sounds of ancient languages such as Sanskrit, and he was having those vowel sounds toned very strongly, the material was affected very strongly and created the actual shape of the Sanskrit lettering in
Wow.
the water, in the material he was using. So the power of the Sanskrit tone, the power of these ancient languages, has an incredible power for healing on the inside. Interestingly enough, he noted that our modern languages did not generate the same results at all.
I was thinking about, the letter B and the letter D. And it's like they really don't resonate with something. But if you were to look at a Chinese symbol for something and you see the picture of it, that emotes something because it's telling a story. B doesn't do much unless you add a bunch of other letters to it to make a word. So you're
Mm-hmm.
right. It just doesn't have a resonance in it.
Mm-hmm.
But how beautiful to know that the picture that you're looking at is a picture of the frequency.
Yes.
And then if
And
you,
it's, mm-hmm, go ahead.
I was going to say, and then if you tune into that frequency, just because you bring that intention, every time I'm engaging with something like this, I'm going to allow that frequency to magnify for me.
Mm-hmm. And it magnifies through repetition. And that repetition creates a kind of magnetism that the life current uses, or the prana, our life current, our prana. And that tends to touch all of our senses. It permeates through our whole being. It slows the rhythm or quickens the rhythm of the blood circulation. It can awaken the nervous system, or it can soothe it. It can arouse a person into heightened passions, or it can calm and soothe them, bringing them peace. So it really is amazing how, when we start to work with the sounding, when we build that resonance and strengthen it through our body, all the shifts and changes that can start to happen as well
As you were
for us.
describing those words, it was interesting because I hadn't really thought of, we have sound and it's usually we're thinking loud and soft, really. And then maybe what key is it in? Not thinking about the emotions that it emotes, the quality that it brings. We sense it, but we don't always, I think, bring it to the forefront of our thoughts as to what is it going to provide,
Mm-hmm.
and that we can take
And
that journey.
yes, yes, absolutely. And then when we bring in words, they carry their own weight as well. And so we can think of, well, what will we choose to give voice to? What do we choose our words with any more discernment when we think mindfully about what we're going to speak out loud? Um, in some practices, mindfulness of thought and word is encouraged all the time because they understand how powerful it is to manifest with the power of the thought, with the power of the word. So there are a lot of different types of circles, and certainly in India as well. There's sounding circles, chanting circles, kirtans, all kinds of intentional circles with sound that are used to combine intent and sound to raise the energy. And in these circles, everyone uses their own voice. So they're all working together collaboratively to raise energy. It's quite
Wow.
amazing, the power it has. And having been involved in quite a lot of those different types of circles, it is quite amazing. Your energy raises up afterwards, and it's sort of like taking extra coffees or extra caffeine or tea. What am I going to do with all this energy?
And isn't that something for people who are always striving, they're always short of energy, or they run out, or they're just tired all the time, to realize how much could be cultivated, that you'd actually have excess, and then you'd have to think about what shall I do with it, you know?
Exactly.
And that's a lot different than lying down on the couch and relaxing and thinking that's going to give you more energy. And then you go to move off the couch and you can hardly move your body. Everything's stiffened right up. So the frequency didn't change. The time that you lounged there was there. The nervous system might have calmed, but it didn't have a change to it that changed the integrity of what was happening.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Can you share a story about a transformation you've witnessed working with this and somebody who's discovering their voice for the first time, just what it's like to observe that?
I think in the most often I've observed a lot of transformations are in the vocal play circles that I have taught, whether they're in conferences or retreats or different communities. People are thinking, okay, vocal play, maybe I can handle it, maybe I can handle it in a group setting, and so they'll step in and they'll think, okay, I'll try this. But what I usually do when I start a circle is I check in with everybody and say, okay, so what was the messaging that you received? Remember we were talking about messaging, earlier. What kind of messages have you had around your voice to shut you down, to close you off, to turn you off? What's happened within your own world? And so as I would check in and as all the stories would come out, you'd see people connecting with each other right there going, there's a whole lot of us who have gotten really negative messages over the years. They're probably thinking, what are we going to do? So when we actually get into the circle, we start to play and we start to loosen up. And then when I start having them do more interactive vocal work, and then when we add on top of it, we keep building layers and layers until we're singing like a band, a vocal orchestra. And the surprise on their faces is just amazing. People who have come in and sat down in their chairs, and when I ask them, scan 1 to 10, where's your energy? And they're like 2, 3. And I think, oh, how am I going to get that energy up? But then I know the voice playing what it does. So afterwards, usually when I'm checking in after the voice play, the hands are going up. Yeah, I'm at 10, I'm at 12, I'm at 15, I'm to the moon and back. But that is when it happens. And I see that magical transformation. I can see it on their faces. But they can feel it inside their bodies, and that's what's really speaking to them. They're getting an inside-out, body-felt expression happening. And this is probably the first time they maybe paid attention to it with such, intention. So that has awoken something new for them. And that's something that I really, really love, because it does start them off in the beginning of a journey, going somewhere, as they can start exploring their voice and see where they want to take it or what they want to do with it next. And that's something that we always discuss, at the end of our vocal workshops as well. Where would you like to explore? Where would you like to take this?
I'm just remembering back to one of the balances we did in Touch for Health. I think it's at level 3. It's a sound balance. And one of the ladies got shouting as the sound she had to make in order to balance that particular system. And she said, I couldn't possibly shout. And she said her husband was very strict about there was no yelling in the house. There was never to be a raised voice. So she had never raised her voice, even in delight, just to keep it nice and quiet and even. So we were supporting each other with our sounds. So, we started shouting and working, and eventually she said, stop that. That's the extent of the height of what she was doing. And it took us a while to get her up to being able to say, okay, stop that. I've had enough, and pull that out. But it was the next day we were on a break and we went off to this park, and she was at the top of the hill and we were down at the bottom, and she yelled down to us, you've got to come up here and see what's up here. And we all turned around and we're like, I can't believe that was her. And we got to the top and we said, wow, thanks for calling to us. And she said, yeah. And she had no realization that her voice had changed, because now it felt comfortable to be in that space of being able to express. And so I wanted to tell that story because I met this woman just a couple months ago at a conference, and I hadn't seen her in like 25 years. And vibrant and outgoing. And I just think, when we shift by doing these things and being able to get our voice there, we don't realize what we've left behind sometimes, and we don't realize where we went to, because it becomes the new normal. So as you were saying, that cumulative effect, the more you're joining in on the circles, the more the voice starts to pick up, the body starts to feel different, and then we start making different decisions, and then we don't realize what we've left behind. Yeah.
Yes, amazing story.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
really
It was
wonderful.
it's one that's stuck with me all these years. And I like to tell that one when we get to the sound balance, because it's a simple little protocol. But your work, I mean, you're in music doing all kinds of things. We're just doing a couple little sounds, but that's how profound those couple little sounds are.
Hmm.
Is just where can it go, and just for people to realize. So
Well, with encouragement and with permission, it's like it's okay to make those sounds here. That's a huge piece of it as well,
mhm.
because a lot of times it's like the permission hasn't been given. Like in this case, with this woman being told, no, you're not supposed to make those sounds, only this level of sound, So you gave her permission to move beyond that.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And the interesting piece, having met her, so many years later, is I actually met her husband, and it was like, wow. But he was outgoing and vivacious, but it was a result of she found her voice, and then he found his voice. And so we don't
Beautiful.
always know. There's the autograph, right? We don't know what gift we're going to be giving to someone from ourselves that will impact what they're able to do. And so
Hmm.
that was the other piece, because I thought I never would have guessed, when I met him, that that's who he would be. So, yeah. Okay, let's move into something a little bit practical so people can get an experience. And if you're driving in the car listening to this podcast, or you're lucky enough to be at home where you can explore a little bit, then please just let it go and enjoy. Will you guide us on a short little voice exercise?
Ah, sure. Um, we can try just by humming, finding our tones. So if you're sitting, and certainly not if you're in the car, don't close your eyes, but if you're sitting safely somewhere without your pedal to the metal, as they say, close your eyes and take a few nice deep breaths, breathing in through your nose and breathe out through the mouth. And as you breathe out through the mouth, allow yourself to make a bit of a sound. Breathing in, just allowing the exhale to be something you can hear, something audible. And as you focus on the breath, now closing your mouth, allow the sound to drop deep into your belly, and allow on the external breath to turn it into a hum. So breathing in through the nose. Even let it feel it drop. So breathing in and letting the hum drop down as you tone. And continue doing that at your own pace. But as you do, and you feel the sound drop in your body, think of it almost as being a corridor of from your chakras, from your root chakra down into your belly, to your navel, your heart, your throat, through to your third eye, your crown, there's this corridor of energy that flows up and down. And so as you're toning, allow that tone to start humming through that corridor of energy. And then let it build and build with each hum. And start to notice what you're feeling on the inside of your body. And as it builds, that's where the energy starts to form. And it almost might start to feel like the glowing embers in a campfire. You're sparking those embers up with the humming. You're sparking up the cells of your body with that humming, and allowing it just to move up and down through that corridor, through the central channel of your body, humming and toning. And when we allow ourselves to find and access that natural connection with our own inherent vocal tone, it becomes a foundational practice for our own physical well-being. Just that sensation is often felt just as a buzz. It can also be felt as a buzz in the face, around the nose and the lips sometimes. But it tends to help us resonate and allow the sound to be placed in the body without being forced. And that's one thing that we never want to do. We never want to force our sound. We want it to be able to flow in this lovely state of relaxation, and then let it stimulate the vagus nerves, which helps to regulate the body's stress response and promotes a sense of calmness. And it can help align the breath and the body to create a continuous and natural resonance that reflects one's own essential life force. So just allowing ourselves to connect with that own natural hum, that tone within us, that can be a huge stepping stone in working with sound through our voice for our own personal healing. So when you're ready, just taking a nice deep breath and giving your body a little shake and coming back to the surface world again. So how was that for you, Michelle?
It was wonderful. As you were saying, the sparks coming up, I was working my way down to the ground. It was like, oh, go up. And then just how quickly I could change direction, which immediately changed thought, changed lightness. Yeah. And it was instant. It was incredible. Yeah. So in thinking about, somebody's having a kind of a harried kind of day, and everything's frazzled. And then just to think in a few short minutes, you can be in a completely different place and you can be reacting in a completely different way to the situation around you, but also the body can be on the healing side of the situation instead of on the harried side where everything's kind of fallen apart.
True. Absolutely.
Yeah. And when people are first experiencing that, what do you notice usually about the room, just with the gathered group of people in a circle?
It's like there's not just one hum, there's many. And so it's sort of like being in a little bit of a beehive. all of these are humming in the little beehive.
Yeah.
And that is enriching and dousing even the energy of the space in the room itself, with a lot of the intention that's coming forth. So you can start to feel it viscerally a little bit around the room as well when you've got that many voices starting to hum. Mm-hmm.
And you said something interesting there, which I don't think people will think about, is the more time you spend doing these kind of activities and filling the space up, the space is able to hold those frequencies. So the place where we live, the room where we need to be creative, we can build it and magnify it and continue to sustain it, or we can leave it in silence. But
Absolutely.
we can decide what kind of room we want to have. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Well, if you think of the different types of buildings that are around us, there are some that we step into that we can feel immediately they have sort of a sacredness to them, or they have a calming influence, or some that are noisy and raucous and playful, or there's different types of energies that we step into. So a lot of times, if we've created just like a little sacred nook or corner or an altar in one of our rooms, where we light candles or put offerings, that can hold that resonance as well. And when we start to maybe do regular meditating or chant work, etc., if we're doing that in the same place, that'll hold the resonance of that energy in the space. It'll be held, which is so nice to be able to step back into that again. You can step into the room and go, this feels good. The energy's there to welcome you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking again about who is the healer. And then you can have a space that becomes people running in and out, stuff happens, not too much cultivation happens, or you can create that space that, yes, people are running in and out, but every time they run in, they're surrounded by this love and this resonance that can be created and set up. And you can have that same experience with it. I guess it's kind of like being in the kitchen when I just made chicken soup today, which always reminds me of the women that went before me, because chicken soup was such a big part of our Hungarian traditions. And, so when you're in the kitchen and you're surrounded by the love of the chicken noodle soup, that's a lot different than the package that you just poured onto the boiling water and, there it is. But this cultivation that can happen around that, and then how that space can hold that resonance.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, isn't it typical that the kitchen is always the most filled room of the house? Everyone gravitates to the kitchen.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
meets and greets and spend times and the vibration, the energy of the food that comes with it. All of that absolutely creates and builds a wonderful space, a wonderful energy for people to step into. So you can do that, as like you said, very similarly with setting intention with your sound work, with your own healing process as well. You can create rooms or places to be sacred like that in your own home.
So now you and I didn't talk about this and set up for this, but I'm going to ask you this question. So behind you, you have all kinds of instruments, and I've been in your incredible space. And there's so much resonance in there. What is a typical day like for you that you use to cultivate and bring that energy in?
A lot of it would start typically with the voice, working with the voice. Of course, I'd have to have my water as well in the morning to flush out all the mucus and things on your vocal cords, that morning phlegm, etc. But I work a lot with the Shruti box, and the Shruti box is a bellows instrument, and you can play the notes of a scale on it. And because of that, I can work with the chakras sounding. And that's working with the Bija mantras, Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Ham, Om. And these are very short syllable words that are meant to activate the chakras of the body. And so just as I had you humming up and down that central corridor, when you're working with each of the chakras, those are in this central corridor as well, and they help to align the energy centers of the body as well. So giving myself a warm-up with the Bija mantras. And then it would probably have me going over to warm my hands up on the piano, and that's talking about a lot of scales and chords and things like that, because musicians, if they really want to play well, have to put in the time on their technique. So it can feel sort of boring and repetitive, but there's something to be said for the repetition and, of course, how that builds energy as well, as we just spoke about. Mm-hmm. So that would have me going to the piano, doing my scales, doing my some of the pieces, some of my classical work, and then I'd probably go into some of my own compositional work, and I'm always constantly reworking and coming up with new compositions and things as well. So that's where ideas and things would open up for myself as well. And then, of course, if I'm seeing people or if I'm going out to play, that would see me packing up my instruments and getting them ready to head out to wherever I'm taking them off to, or whichever group I'm going to play with. So it would be sort of some of my day as a musician.
Beautiful. This led me to another thought, because you've done a lot as a death doula and going into hospice and supporting people. Do you find, because that resonance comes into that space, do you find that the resonance holds within spaces like that?
What you want it to do is be able to hold within the person that you're working with. Mm-hmm. And you're right, that there's not always a resonance in the space. And depending upon what stage a person is at as well, if they still have many weeks ahead, there'll still be a certain rustle and bustle going on as people come in and out, helping, etc. But if it's towards end of life and there's a matter of days or hours, then it would probably be held in a much more private and quiet space and place. Mm-hmm. And at that point, yes, I think the resonance would be held a little bit more intensely in those places. The challenge for anyone stepping into those situations is to be able to hold that space for themselves as well as the person that they're stepping into be mm-hmm. with. And I think one of the hugest things for me, the difference between singing for entertainment and singing with heart are two very different things at this juncture of a person's journey, because when you're stepping in to play bedside for someone who is in a palliative care situation, for me what opens up is the heart. And as soon as you bring the heart into the voice, it shifts and changes, and people can feel that when the heart is involved. Mm-hmm. If it's just singing at you for entertainment value, it doesn't sink in the same way as you would if someone is truly singing with their heart and wanting that to be a kind of sonic tonic or medicine for the person or the receiver as well. So it really, really does change when you're moving into the palliative care situation.
And that lends itself to thinking about, I could vocalize in the kitchen while I'm cooking mm-hmm. with my heart not open. And I could think I'm doing a fairly good job. But then there's that difference then to open the heart and then really come from the heart. So I think you brought us to a lovely place to think about how much we want to invest ourselves into that healing process. And if we're the healer, then being able to open our heart to be present. And it might not be at the beginning, because it might be hard to get there, which is okay, because then that repetitive piece of coming back, do it some more, play it another way, and then slowly work to the place where all of a sudden you hit that. I know in dancing sometimes it's referred to as hit the pocket. That's where you dance and all of a sudden the effort's gone and it's just the arabesque happens or the leap, and you just go, and it's like, that was so beautiful. Like you said, when you're practicing the piano and you've got to go through all those scales and do all that technical stuff, but then you get to that place where the heart opens and the music really starts to come out and shine. So for someone who may not have ever done anything like this before and wouldn't know the difference between an open heart or, just singing, to be able to allow that openness to come in. Did you want to comment any further on something like that?
Sure. One of the things that I would really bring into it is that if you were um, just singing through your day, singing in the shower, singing in the kitchen, I mean, you're still raising your energy and you're still using that tool. So this is all really good stuff to be doing. When you're shifting it from what I say, think of as the mind down to the heart, when you're shifting gears down, that to me is one of the longest journeys to get ourselves out of our heads and into our hearts. And a way to help shift that is if think of someone that you love dearly and who's not doing well, and put them on the couch in front of you and think of yourself as singing love to them, singing to them with all of your heart. And how does that feel? And that'll feel different. And when that drop down into the heart happens, and the individuals will see for themselves how it does feel. So you can go from that place of just singing playfulness, which is raising your energy, and then you have it to sink down and into the heart and sing from that. You're prepared and ready to give to another person because you've energized your own instrument to be able to do that as well.
And that's that compassionate outreach, which is so critical for our own healing process. We don't often think of it that way because we think it should be just us, but it isn't. It's really how we're connecting with everyone else. Yeah. Beautiful.
Well, there's a lot of times when you walk into a room and there's always people who tend to stand out or sparkle. There's something about their energy that is just like, wow, you want to be around, you want to hang around that person a little bit longer. So you can tell they've been working. They've been doing something, ask them, what have you been up to? Have you been meditating? Have you been dancing? Have you been ice skating? What have you been doing to keep
How much tea have you been drinking?
You've had a good dose of tea today.
That's right. At least one pot.
Yes, yes.
Oh, beautiful. Is there anything that we didn't cover that we wanted to make sure we got to today?
I guess one of some extensive things to just add on. We did a bit of playing with the toning in the centers, but I as I had mentioned, working with Bija mantras and working with the energy centers of the body is another really wonderful thing to focus on. And as you work through and work with it specifically on the energy centers of the body, you may find some really wonderful benefit to that for yourself. But that's something to explore. Someone to help you with that is Jonathan Goldman, who's the author of Vocal Toning the Chakras. And he talks a lot about all the benefits of vocal toning as well, which is a good reference to check into. I think I've left you with a website or two on that as well that you may post. But also working with the spontaneous and with the intuitive voice. I had a chance to study with Rhiannon, who sang with Bobby McFerrin, and she was part of his vocal group called Voicestra. And it's about totally being spontaneous in your vocal creations It's playing, it's being on the edge. So working with vocal sound circles is another really fun way to explore the voice. And when you're in a group, it may not feel so standoutish if you're there with a group. You know, sometimes it's very nerve-wracking to go in, oh, I have to sing and everybody's going to listen to me. Uh-oh. You know, but if you're in a group, everybody's singing, everybody's doing it together, okay, I can mix in with and blend in a little bit more, and it's not so overwhelming. So vocal sound circles are really fun places to go play and explore the voice as well. So I wanted to bring that out. And of course, as I mentioned, when you bring the heart into the voice, it shifts as well. And so, you know, even think of a mother singing a lullaby to her baby or her child, you know. So it's when the voice shifts into the heart from this playful place just to this heart intention place. It is really beautiful how powerful and healing that tool is, not only for us, but how beautifully loving and warm it is for those being enfolded by that sound. So play, have fun, and I hope you enjoy getting to know your own beautiful, unique voice. There's only one in the world that carries your signature, like a thumbprint. So enjoy, play, have fun.
And that's really interesting too, because, you know, we'll say in our minds, you know, well, I don't have a good singing voice, you know, and or I can't sing so well, or I just don't sing. That would be what my dad would say. But when you stop to think, you have a unique signature. No one else can make the sounds you can make. That's a completely different way of looking at it. And then, what sound do I make? There is no right or wrong, because it's going to be the only one in the world that can be made that way. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And not every sound has to be pretty. I mean, think of natural sounds, you know, in nature, and think if like I was. Doesn't it seem strange that someone is yawning and there's no yawn sound coming out of their mouth, like oh yeah, you know, that's a natural sound, but it's amazing how many we inhibit or keep inside of us. So, you know, sound is very natural. Do you allow yourself to make natural sounds? Laughter, one of the best medicines around. Oh my goodness, laughter. You know, find anything that you can to give yourself a good chuckle. You should be getting at least several chuckles a day. Children laugh a whole lot more than adults do. And yet laughter is such an incredible medicine and can break down the stress in the body and you know, and keep it at bay for up to 45 minutes afterwards. So find things to have a good laugh over. Even laughter. That's a great sound to make. And so healing for as a stress buster. So yes, we don't all need to sound pretty. Nature sounds, laughter, all of those. It's living fully, living holistically, and our body is the instrument for our voice. So live fully, engage it all.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ann-Marie, for bringing us to our personal healers, and I guess granting permission for us to get out there and explore, and to be able to play and bring it forward. And when we get to the third part of the trilogy, so episode 3, we're doing the synesthetic experience of sound. So how all the senses come alive. Do you want to just give us a little taste of what listeners can expect?
Well, if I wanted to add on to it, we're living in a holistic body, but then you add on synesthesia, and you're living with your full senses in this holistic body. It's going to be yummy. So I hope you're there to join us.
So we have some resources that we shared today. So just to check the descriptions, in each of the trilogies because they'll be written up in different parts. But the other is Ann-Marie and I are going to be doing retreats in February and March in person. That will be in Inverness County for those people that are on Cape Breton Island. And then we also have a retreat that's coming up in August, which will host a series of facilitators, but we'll be bringing sound to that retreat as well. And so we'll just plant that seed for anybody who wants to come to Cape Breton Island in August. That'll be a great way for people to connect. So we'll have that information out shortly. Anything else?
No, it was just wonderful to spend time with you this afternoon and with our listeners. And I hope you all have a lot of fun with your voices.
So thank you for listening to episode 2. And if you've enjoyed this conversation, please be sure to subscribe to Ann-Marie's YouTube channel, as well as my YouTube channel, which is at Michelle Greenwell. Leave a review, share it with a friend, find ways that you can start to pass this information forward. And if you want to have more information about Ann-Marie and her work, you can visit her website, which is, you have that?
Ann-Marie Boudreau, 8570.
Okay.
That's on YouTube.
On the YouTube channel. And then stay tuned for our final episode on the trilogy, which is about life in color and a synesthetic experience of sound. Be well, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.